The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Thorvax of the Krell Empire displayed the holographic data. Red zones spread across the star map like blood and water, each marking a fallen civilization consumed by the Crimson Death. 17 species extinct in 4 months, Thorvax announced, his crystalline voice heavy with despair. The virus adapts faster than our scientists can sequence it. It rewrites cellular code, turning victims into mindless vectors before dissolving them entirely. We've lost entire planets, the assembled delegates shifted uneasily. The Crimson Death had first appeared in the Outer Rim, dismissed as a local outbreak. Now it ravaged the galaxy's most advanced societies. The VRWNN Collective, masters of nanotechnology, had fallen within weeks. The Silicon Priesthood, beings of pure energy, proved equally vulnerable. Nothing worked, not quarantine, not genetic barriers, not even complete planetary sterilization. Earth has been notified, continued High Chancellor Meridax, her aged features grave. We've sent them our entire research database. Perhaps fresh eyes will see what we've missed. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Earth, that backwater planet of oxygen breathers who'd only discovered faster-than-light travel a century ago. Their medicine was primitive, their technology laughably simple. They still used organic computers and physical tools. Desperation makes fools of us all, muttered Ambassador K'Thren of the Hive Worlds. What could these humans possibly offer that 5,000 years of collective wisdom cannot? But Meridax's expression remained stern. They survived their own extinction events through adaptation and stubbornness. Perhaps that's what we need now, not brilliance, but sheer bloody-minded refusal to die. Meanwhile, aboard the human research vessel Prometheus, Dr. Elizabeth Monroe stared at the incoming data package. Her team had been en route to investigate a new nebula when the priority transmission arrived. Now her mission had changed. It's beautiful, whispered Marcus Webb, her xenobiology specialist, watching the virus's structure rotate in 3 dimensions. Elegantly designed, almost artistic in its complexity, it's a weapon, Elizabeth corrected grimly. Look at these mutation patterns. This isn't natural evolution, someone engineered this. The realization hung heavy in the sterile lab air. The galaxy wasn't facing a plague. It was facing genocide. Captain James Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. Dr. Monroe, we're receiving distress signals from the Tellarian system. The virus just breached their final quarantine zone. The Council is requesting we proceed there immediately. Elizabeth exchanged glances with her team. 23 researchers against a doomsday virus that had defeated the galaxy's greatest minds. The odds were impossibly long. Set course, she ordered. And someone wake up Jenkins. If we're walking into hell, I want our immunologist sober for once. As Prometheus adjusted course toward the dying Tellarian system, none of them realized they were about to discover humanity's greatest advantage. They had evolved on a planet that had spent 4 billion years trying to kill them. The Tellarian home world was dying when Prometheus entered orbit. From space, the planet looked like a festering wound, swathes of red biomatter spreading across the continents like mold on fruit. Entire cities lay silent, their inhabitants either fled or consumed. Life signs minimal, reported Navigation Officer Chen. Maybe 3 million survivors out of a population of 9 billion. They're clustered in the polar regions where cold seems to slow the virus. Elizabeth Monroe stood in the observation deck, hands clasped behind her back. Around her, the galaxy's most powerful civilizations had sent their data, petabytes of research, genetic sequences, failed treatments. Every species had approached the problem the same way: identify the virus's structure, predict its evolution, design a countermeasure. Every species had failed. The problem, Elizabeth murmured to Marcus, is that everyone's treating this like a puzzle to solve. They're trying to outsmart it. Isn't that how science works? Not human science. Not when we're desperate. She turned to face her team. On Earth, we've been in an arms race with diseases for our entire existence. Smallpox, plague, influenza, COVID-19, each one killed millions. We didn't win by being smarter than the virus. We won by being meaner and more adaptable. She pulled up Earth's medical history. Look at this, when we couldn't cure polio, we invented iron lungs to keep victims alive long enough to recover. When bacteria became antibiotic resistant, we turned to bacteriophages, using viruses to kill bacteria. We're not elegant scientists. We're survivors who'll try anything. Dr. Robert Jenkins, the immunologist who'd been nursing a hangover in his quarters, stumbled onto the bridge. His graying hair stuck up at odd angles. Tell me you've got coffee and a suicidal mission. I do my best work when I'm either drunk or terrified. Both, Elizabeth assured him. We're going planetside to collect live samples. The room fell silent. Every other research team had worked from orbit, using drones and remote sensors. Going down to the surface was suicide. The virus was airborne, waterborne, and contact transmitted. The Council will never approve, Marcus protested. The Council isn't human, Elizabeth countered. They see the Crimson Death as an impossible problem. We see it as Doomsday. She brought up images from Earth's history, medics treating Ebola in paper suits, researchers deliberately infecting themselves to test vaccines, entire populations enduring lockdowns. Humans don't have the galaxy's best technology or longest lifespans, she continued. But we've got something they don't, we evolved in a cosmic shooting gallery. Earth has thrown everything at us, ice ages, meteor strikes, supervolcanoes, and pandemics. We're still here because we're too stubborn to die and too crazy to know when to quit. Captain Rodriguez made his decision. Prep the landing shuttle. Full biohazard protocols. Dr. Monroe, you'll have 4 hours on the surface before I drag you back by force. As the team suited up, Jenkins pulled Elizabeth aside. You know this is insane, right? Even by human standards. She smiled grimly. Bob, we're a species that looked at the hostile vacuum of space and decided it was a challenge, not a warning. Insane is what we do best. The shuttle descended through Talaria's plague-choked atmosphere, carrying humanity's response to the galaxy's nightmare, not sophisticated analysis or advanced technology, but the raw, desperate ingenuity of a species that had clawed its way from the caves to the stars by refusing to accept extinction as an option. The shuttle touched down on the outskirts of Talarak City, once home to 12 million souls. Now it was a necropolis wrapped in crimson biomatter. The virus's organic matrix covered everything, buildings, vehicles, even the ground itself, pulsing with sickly luminescence. Atmospheric analysis complete, reported Martinez, their engineer. Viral load is. Jesus. It's everywhere. I'm reading active particles in concentrations that should be impossible. Elizabeth checked her suit's integrity one final time. The environmental suit was Earth-made, designed for the toxic atmospheres of Venus and Titan. Compared to those hellscapes, Talaria was almost welcoming, if you ignored the apocalyptic plague. Remember, she instructed her team, we're not here to cure anyone today. We're here to understand why this virus is so effective against galactic species, but we haven't seen any cases among the human observers who've been exposed. It was a detail that had gone largely unnoticed in the panic. 3 human diplomats had been on VRYN Prime when the outbreak started. They'd witnessed the horror firsthand, helped evacuate survivors, and should have contracted the virus. They hadn't even gotten sick. The team moved through the dead city, collecting samples. The Crimson Death was everywhere, in the air, the water, coating every surface. Through her suit's visor, Elizabeth watched it move, almost deliberately, reaching toward them like grasping hands. It's aggressive, Marcus observed, his voice tight. Look at this growth pattern. It's not just spreading, it's hunting. Jenkins knelt beside what had been a Talarian citizen. The body was half dissolved, crystalline bone structure breaking down into base proteins. The virus attacks the cellular foundation, he said, his scientific detachment not quite masking the horror. It's finding each species' weakest point at the molecular level. For the Talarians, it's their silicon-calcium matrix. For the VRNN, it was their nanite integration. It's like it knows exactly where to strike. Because it does, Elizabeth realized. It's not evolving, it's designed. Someone created a master key that unlocks every species' biology. She stood up, looking around the dead city. The galaxy's species are all advanced, optimized, genetically refined over millennia. The VRNN eliminated disease through nanotechnology. The Krell engineered themselves for longevity. The hive worlds achieved perfect genetic synchronization. And that made them vulnerable, Marcus finished. They're too perfect. Too specialized. But humans. Jenkins laughed bitterly. We're a mess. We've got vestigial organs, junk DNA, and immune systems that sometimes attack our own bodies. We're barely controlled chaos wrapped in skin. Elizabeth nodded. Exactly. We're not a finished product, we're a work in progress. Our immune systems are paranoid, aggressive, and overbuilt because Earth kept trying to kill us. We're still carrying genetic defenses against diseases that went extinct millennia ago. She held up a sample of the Crimson Death. This virus is looking for sophisticated locks to pick. But humans? We're the genetic equivalent of a reinforced door, 17 deadbolts, 3 chain locks, and a paranoid neighbor with a shotgun. The revelation was stunning in its simplicity. The galaxy's advanced civilizations had refined away their biological redundancies, optimized their genetics, eliminated the messy, inefficient aspects of evolution. They were elegant solutions to the problem of life. Humans were not elegant. Humans were the result of 4 billion years of barely surviving in a universe actively hostile to their existence. So we can't get infected, Martinez said. That's great for us. But how does that help everyone else? Elizabeth smiled. Because now we know the virus's weakness. It can't handle chaos. It needs predictable genetic structures. So we're going to introduce it to the most unpredictable, chaotic, stubbornly unkillable genetic system in the galaxy. Our own, Jenkins whispered. Our own. The Galactic Council's emergency session was interrupted by Captain Rodriguez's transmission. The holographic display showed the Prometheus approaching the quarantine VRNN system, where the Crimson Death had first emerged. This is unauthorized. Chancellor Meridax protested. The VRNN system is under absolute quarantine. No ships are permitted within 10 light-years. We're not asking permission, Rodriguez replied calmly. We're informing you of what we're about to do. Elizabeth stepped into frame. She looked exhausted, her hair pulled back hastily, stimulant patches visible on her neck. Behind her, the ship's medical bay had been converted into something that horrified the assembled delegates, a biological warfare laboratory. We've identified why humans are immune, she announced. The Crimson Death is a precision weapon designed to exploit genetic optimization. But human genetics aren't optimized, they're a mess of redundancies, ancient defenses, and evolutionary baggage. The virus can't find a foothold. Ambassador Thorvax leaned forward. Fascinating, but irrelevant. We cannot retrofit billions of years of evolution into the surviving populations. You're right, Elizabeth agreed. But we can do something else. We're going to weaponize our immune system. She gestured, and new data flooded the Council's displays. Genetic sequences, antibody structures, cellular diagrams, all human biology. For the past 72 hours, we've been deliberately exposing my team to the Crimson Death. Our immune systems have been generating antibodies, T-cells, and phage responses. But here's what makes it interesting, human immune systems don't just respond to threats. They remember them, adapt them, and sometimes incorporate them. Jenkins appeared beside her, looking more alert than he had in weeks. We've isolated 17 different immune responses to the virus. Our bodies aren't trying to outsmart it, they're trying to eat it. Human macrophages are literally consuming the viral particles and breaking them down for parts. You're describing immunity, Friend said dismissively. We understand the concept. No, Elizabeth countered. You understand resistance. This is different. Watch. The display showed microscopic footage that made several delegates recoil. Human white blood cells were hunting down viral particles with terrifying efficiency. But more disturbing was what happened next. The immune cells were adapting the virus's own mechanisms, turning them into weapons. Our immune system is learning from the Crimson Death, Marcus explained. It's reverse engineering the virus's attack protocols and using them as defense mechanisms. It's like our bodies are saying, nice weapon you've got there. We'll take it. This is insane, breathed Ambassador Vex Nor of the Silicon Priesthood. Human biology is cannibalizing a doomsday weapon. It's what we do, Elizabeth said simply. Humans have borrowed genes from viruses, bacteria, even the food we eat. 8% of human DNA is actually ancient viral code that we've repurposed. We're genetic pack rats, we take everything useful and incorporate it into our survival toolkit. She straightened, her expression hardening. Which brings me to our plan. We're going to synthesize a hybrid treatment, part vaccine, part genetic therapy, using human immune responses as a template. We'll distribute it as an aerosol throughout the infected systems. The council chamber erupted in protest. You'll contaminate the galaxy with human genetic material, someone shouted. Better than extinction, Rodriguez shot back. The risk is astronomical, Meridax argued. What if your treatment mutates? What if it creates something worse? Then we'll deal with that too, Elizabeth said. Because that's what humans do. We don't wait for perfect solutions, we try imperfect ones and fix them as we go. We're not elegant, we're not optimized, and we're definitely not cautious. But we're alive, and we're offering you the same chance. She paused, letting her words sink in. You've spent 4 months trying to find a sophisticated solution to a sophisticated weapon. We're offering you a crude, messy, human solution instead. It might not work. It might have side effects. But it's a hell of a lot better than waiting for the Crimson Death to finish its work. The silence stretched. Then Chancellor Meridax spoke, her voice barely a whisper. How long until you can synthesize enough treatment? Give us 48 hours, Elizabeth replied. And a prayer. We might need that too. Humans don't pray to our gods, Thorvax observed. Elizabeth smiled grimly. No, but we pray to our own. And let me tell you, our God has experience with long shots and impossible odds. The Prometheus became a factory of desperate innovation. Every crew member who could hold a pipette was drafted into the medical bay. They worked in shifts, sleep-deprived and running on stimulants, synthesizing the hybrid treatment that might save the galaxy or doom it to something worse. This is the part where we find out if we're heroes or villains, Jenkins muttered, watching the centrifuges spin. History's full of well-meaning scientists who broke the world trying to fix it. Elizabeth didn't look up from her microscope. Then we'd better get the dosage right. The treatment was elegantly brutal in its simplicity. They'd isolated the most aggressive human antibodies and combined them with synthetic phages, viruses that consumed other viruses. But the real innovation was the delivery mechanism, modified human T cells that would hunt down and destroy the Crimson Death, then safely degrade without permanently altering the recipient's genome. In theory. First batch is ready, Marcus announced. We've got enough for field testing. They chose the Talarian survivors in the polar camps, 3 million desperate souls who had watched their world die. Captain Rodriguez contacted their provisional government, explaining the treatment and its risks. The response was immediate. Do it. Whatever the cost, do it. The Prometheus deployed atmospheric dispersal drones over the survivor camps. The treatment descended like rain, shimmering with bioluminescent markers. Through telescopic sensors, the crew watched it settle on the makeshift shelters, permeate the air, reach the huddled Talarians. For 10 agonizing minutes, nothing happened. Then the first reports came in. Fever responses, the Talarian medical officer reported. Elevated temperatures, immune activation. Some individuals are experiencing severe reactions. Hold steady, Elizabeth urged. That's normal. Their immune systems are learning to fight. Several individuals are convulsing. We're losing, wait. The officer's voice changed. The crimson biomatter. It's retreating. It's dying. The sensors confirmed it. Across the camps, the crimson death was withering, its red luminescence fading to gray as the human-derived treatment ripped through its structure. The virus that had consumed worlds was being consumed in turn by humanity's borrowed weapons. Within an hour, the Talarian camps were clear. The survivors emerged, weak but alive, staring at their own skin in disbelief as the last traces of infection dissolved. It works, Marcus breathed. Dear God, it actually works. But Elizabeth was studying the bio readings, her expression troubled. Look at the survivors' immune profiles. They're changed. Not permanently, but different. Their cells are producing human-style antibodies now. It'll fade over time, but right now, they're not quite fully Talarian anymore. They're alive, Jenkins pointed out. That's what matters. Is it? Elizabeth pulled up a genetic comparison. We've just altered the biology of 3 million beings. We didn't ask their permission for the specifics, we couldn't, there wasn't time. But we've effectively given them a piece of human immune system. What does that make them? The philosophical question hung in the sterile air. The Galactic Council was already broadcasting demands for immediate treatment of all affected worlds. 53 civilizations were screaming for salvation, each one willing to pay any price, accept any consequence. Rodriguez entered the lab, his face grave. We've got a problem. The Krell Empire is demanding priority treatment. They're threatening to seize our research by force if necessary. Let them try, Elizabeth said coldly. We distribute based on need, not politics. That's not how the galaxy works, Doctor. Then maybe it's time the galaxy learned to work differently. She stood, facing her captain. We're offering them life, but we're also offering them a choice, accept help on our terms, with all its implications, or face extinction with their genetic purity intact. I wonder how many will choose pride over survival. The answer came swiftly. Every civilization, every species, every faction that still drew breath voted unanimously, save us. The Prometheus began its impossible mission, seeding the galaxy with humanity's gift. But Elizabeth couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just changed something fundamental about the cosmic order. For billions of years, the galaxy's species had evolved separately, each following their own path to complexity. Now, all of them would carry a trace of Earth, a genetic memory of humanity's desperate, chaotic, beautiful refusal to surrender to extinction. We're not just curing a plague, she told Marcus quietly. We're rewriting what it means to be alive in this galaxy. Is that wrong? She smiled sadly. I don't know. Ask me in 1,000 years, when we see what we've created. 3 weeks after the Crimson Death's defeat, Elizabeth Monroe stood before the Galactic Council, no longer as a desperate scientist but as something else, a figure of controversy, hope, and fear. The chamber was packed. Every surviving species had sent representatives, and the accusations came fast and furious. You contaminated our genetic heritage. Ambassador K'Thren accused, her hive world crystalline form flickering with anger. Our population now carries foreign proteins. We are no longer purely ourselves. You're alive to complain about it, Jenkins shot back from the observation deck. Security had to restrain him. Chancellor Meridax raised her hand for silence. Let us address these concerns systematically. Dr. Monroe, please explain the long-term effects of your treatment. Elizabeth pulled up the data dispassionately. The human-derived antibodies persist for approximately 90 days before being metabolized. After that, your immune systems will return to baseline, retaining only the memory of how to fight the virus. Think of it as a temporary loan, not permanent theft. But during those 90 days, pressed Vex Nor of the Silicon Priesthood. We are hybrid beings. This has philosophical implications for many of our cultures. It has survival implications for all of your species, Rodriguez interjected, stepping forward. Let's not lose perspective. 4 months ago, you were facing extinction. Now you're worried about philosophical purity. Easy for humans to say, Ambassador Thorvax rumbled. Your species has always been comfortable with genetic chaos. Some of us value our evolutionary heritage. Elizabeth felt her temper flare. Heritage? You want to talk about heritage? Earth has 16 mass extinctions in our geological record. Humanity nearly went extinct at least 6 times that we know of. Every human alive carries Neanderthal DNA, we're already hybrids of multiple species. We don't view our genetic makeup as sacred because we've spent 4 billion years understanding that survival requires adaptation. She walked toward the assembled delegates. You call us primitive. Unsophisticated. You've looked down on Earth since we joined the galactic community. But when the Crimson Death came, when your advanced civilizations and refined genetics couldn't save you, what did you do? You begged the primitive humans for help. The chamber fell silent. And we helped, Elizabeth continued, her voice softening. Not because we wanted to prove ourselves superior. Not because we sought power over you. We helped because that's what you do when someone is dying. You don't check if they're worthy first. You don't ask if saving them will be convenient. You just help. A new voice spoke, Ambassador Lasara of New VRYN, one of the first species saved by the treatment. The human doctor speaks truth. We of VRYN were the first to fall, the first to be saved. Yes, we carry human genetic markers now. But we also carry our lives, our children's futures, our civilization's chance to rebuild. Is that not worth a temporary alteration to our biology? Other voices joined hers. The Talarians, who'd lost 90% of their population. The Krell border worlds, saved hours before complete collapse. The Silicon Priesthood enclaves, their energy matrices stabilized by the treatment. But not everyone was grateful. A coalition of species who'd been saved late, after watching others receive priority, were demanding reparations. They claimed the humans had played favorites, violated neutrality, perhaps even profited from the crisis. Profited? Jenkins exploded, breaking free from security. We've been working without sleep for a month. We've burned through our entire research budget. The Prometheus needs repairs we can't afford. We're not charging anyone because we're not monsters. Nonetheless, said Counselor Marvex, a politician from a species that had lost relatively few lives, there must be accountability. The humans acted unilaterally, without proper authorization. They distributed a genetic treatment that altered billions of beings. Protocol exists for a reason. Rodriguez stepped forward, his captain's uniform crisp despite weeks of stress. You're right. Protocol exists. It exists so that decisions can be made thoughtfully, carefully, with proper oversight. But protocol also tends to move slowly. The Crimson Death didn't. So yes, we violated protocol. We'd do it again. That attitude is precisely the problem, Marvex continued. Humans seem to believe that good intentions excuse any action. Today it was a cure. Tomorrow it might be something else. Who decides when humans can bypass galactic law? Elizabeth saw where this was going. The crisis had passed, and now came the reckoning. The galaxy hadn't just been saved, it had been humbled. And humanity, the junior species, the newcomers from a backwater world, had been the ones to save it. That was a truth some civilizations found harder to swallow than the Crimson Death itself. Perhaps, she said quietly, we should discuss the other finding from our research. The one I haven't mentioned yet. The chamber stilled. What finding? Meridax asked. Elizabeth pulled up new data, analysis of the Crimson Death's core structure. The virus was designed. We knew that. But look at these markers, these artificial sequences. They're not just sophisticated, they're familiar. This virus was created using technology that appears in the galactic database. Specifically, in genetic research files from the Advanced Biotech Summit held 20 years ago. The implications hung in the air like poison. Someone in this room, Elizabeth said, or someone in one of your governments, created the Crimson Death. This wasn't an accident or natural evolution. This was genocide. Deliberate, calculated genocide. And while you're accusing humans of overstepping, Rodriguez added, his voice hard as steel, you might want to focus on finding the monster who nearly ended the galaxy. The revelation that the Crimson Death was an inside job shattered the Galactic Council's political landscape. Accusations flew like wildfire. Old alliances crumbled as species turned on each other, each denying culpability while pointing fingers elsewhere. The unity that had briefly emerged during the crisis evaporated into paranoia and blame. Elizabeth watched it all from the Prometheus, now docked at the Council station for the investigation. She'd spent 3 days being interrogated, her research dissected by analysts looking for any excuse to discredit humanity's role or find complicity. They're eating themselves alive, Marcus observed, watching the Council's proceedings through the viewport. Delegates were shouting now, some threatening to withdraw from the Council entirely. Of course they are, Jenkins said bitterly. They can't handle the truth. Not just that someone created the virus, but that their precious advanced civilizations couldn't stop it. Meanwhile, the messy, chaotic humans saved the day. That's what really bothers them. Rodriguez entered the observation deck, looking exhausted. The investigations hit a wall. Whoever designed the virus covered their tracks well. The genetic markers could trace back to 17 different research institutions across a dozen species. Without more evidence, they'll never find the culprit. Maybe that's the point, Elizabeth mused. Maybe the virus wasn't about killing everyone, it was about breaking the galaxy's confidence in itself. And it worked. She pulled up a galaxy-wide news feed. Protests on Krell worlds demanding isolation from contaminated species. VRNN scientists publishing papers about the humiliation of requiring human assistance. Border closures. Trade embargoes. The galaxy was fragmenting. We saved them, Marcus said, disbelief in his voice. We saved all of them, and they hate us for it. They don't hate us, Elizabeth corrected. They hate needing us. There's a difference. A chime signaled an incoming transmission. Chancellor Meridax appeared on screen, alone in her chambers. She looked decades older than when the crisis began. Dr. Monroe, she said quietly. I owe you an apology. Several, actually. The Council has been ungracious in its response to humanity's actions. With respect, Chancellor, we didn't do it for gratitude. I know. Which makes the galaxy's response even more shameful. Meridax sighed. I've spent 2 centuries in galactic politics, Doctor. I've seen civilizations rise and fall, wars waged over resources and ideology, treaties signed and broken. But I've never seen anything like what your species did. You knew the risks, not just to yourselves but to your species standing in the galactic community. You knew you'd be scrutinized, questioned, possibly punished. And you saved us anyway. It was the right thing to do. The right thing is rarely the easy thing. And never the popular thing. Meridax leaned forward. I cannot give you what you deserve, the Council won't allow it. Too many egos bruised, too many civilizations embarrassed. But I can tell you this, history will remember. Long after today's politics fade to dust, the galaxy will remember that when the darkness came, humanity lit a torch and refused to let it be extinguished. The transmission ended. Elizabeth sat in silence, processing the Chancellor's words. So that's it. Jenkins asked. We save the galaxy and get a participation trophy? No, Elizabeth said slowly. We get something better. We get proof. Proof of what? That we belong here. She gestured to the viewport, to the stars beyond. For 100 years, we've been the newcomers, the primitives, the species that other civilizations tolerate but don't respect. But now they know, when it mattered most, humanity didn't hesitate. We didn't calculate political advantage or weigh cost-benefit ratios. We saw people dying and we saved them. Rodriguez nodded understanding. We proved that evolution isn't about sophistication or optimization. It's about the will to survive and the courage to help others survive. Exactly. Elizabeth stood, straightening her rumpled uniform. The galaxy's advanced civilizations spent millennia perfecting themselves, eliminating weaknesses, optimizing every genetic trait. They became beautiful, efficient machines. But they forgot what we learned the hard way on Earth: survival isn't about perfection. It's about adaptation, resilience, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. She looked at her team, exhausted, underpaid, working with equipment held together by improvisation and prayer. They were imperfect. Chaotic. Brilliantly, magnificently human. The Crimson Death was designed to kill perfect beings, she continued. It couldn't handle us because we're not perfect. We're survivors. And now the galaxy knows it. Marcus smiled. So what's next for humanity's imperfect survivors? Elizabeth pulled up a star chart. The Council's receiving reports of an anomaly in the Carina sector. Unexplained energy signatures, possibly artificial. They're assembling an investigation team. Let me guess, Jenkins said. They want the crazy humans who'll actually go look at mysterious anomalies instead of sending drones from a safe distance. They haven't asked yet, Rodriguez said. But they will. Good, Elizabeth replied. Because the galaxy just learned an important lesson: when you need something impossible done, when you need someone to walk into the unknown without hesitation, when you need survivors who've spent 4 billion years learning how to refuse extinction. You call the humans, Marcus finished. Through the viewport, the stars beckoned, infinite, mysterious, dangerous. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and terrors yet undiscovered. And somewhere out there, new challenges awaited. New impossibilities to overcome. But the Prometheus and her crew had already proven that impossible was just another word for not yet solved. They'd saved the galaxy once with nothing but stubbornness, creativity, and humanity's gift for turning chaos into victory. They'd do it again. Because that's what humans did. They saw problems and fixed them, saw dangers and faced them, saw the impossible and made it possible through sheer bloody-minded determination. The galaxy had been stunned when humans rendered the Crimson Death harmless. They'd be stunned again. And again. And eventually, they'd stop being stunned and start understanding the fundamental truth about humanity. We were never the galaxy's most advanced species. We were never the most sophisticated or elegant or refined. But we were survivors. And in the end, that was the only trait that truly mattered. The Prometheus detached from the station, engines firing, heading for the Carina sector and whatever mysteries awaited there. Behind them, the galaxy continued its political squabbles, its accusations and counter-accusations, its desperate attempts to reassert normalcy. Let them squabble, Elizabeth thought. Humanity had work to do. After all, the universe wasn't going to save itself. The end.